Lisa Eldridge dropped 3 new Rouge Experience lipsticks and a new eyeshadow palette, so let's dive in. She released 3 new lipsticks in the shade Lili, Toasted, and Ray. Each replacement costs £25, but if you buy the whole lipstick component, it is £49. Each lipstick has 3.5 grams and they are made in Italy. The new eyeshadow palette is called Desert Gleam and is also made in Italy. If you're new to my channel, you might not know that comparing, reviewing Lisa Eldridge products is kind of my thing. I have all of the Lisa Eldridge lipstick lip glosses. Yes, every single one is kind of insane, and I also have all of her eyeshadow palettes, so I feel like I'm some sort of a Lisa Eldridge connoisseur. I have spent my money so you can make informed decisions, and I hope you're prepared for a detailed, comprehensive comparisons of all of the shades, the formulas, so you don't end up buying a duplicate or a shade that you don't like. I was absolutely in love with the Betty palette, so I was hoping that it would be a similar love affair with Desert Gleam. Although Desert Gleam is beautiful in terms of color story, Lisa Eldridge's matte formulas are a little bit hit and miss for me, and I feel like the application is rather particular. The first shade that we have is Dunes. This is a seamless matte formula and is described as a rich warm sand by Lisa. It feels dry to the touch but applies very evenly with a brush and finger, and I have to say this shade is like the perfect shade for my skin tone, for my complexion. That is just a really basic all over the lid nude, and honestly is nothing unique in the sense that it's a nude, but it's such perfect gorgeous nude. It's not too warm, it's not too neutral, it's just something about it that I feel like really is the perfect color. We've got Dunes at the top here, and actually we've got her liquid silk eyeshadows that I've swatched. Phoebe, I adore Phoebe. Phoebe is like one of my favorite shades to wear on my eyes, and by the way, the other 2 shades is Irene and Gaia. And because of this color tone, I found this matte to be the easiest to work with, because I'm not there thinking, oh, I need to build up this pigment. I'm always using it just as a base, or I'm using it to blend out the edges of my eyeshadow. Dunes, fantastic shade. I love it. It's basic but necessary and works perfect for my skin tone. And the next shade we have is Acacia. Now, this is also a seamless matte. It is a neutral, rich, deep cocoa brown. And this shade actually feels creamier to the touch, even though it is the exact same formula as Dunes. This shade, you can blend it out super easily, even though it does look quite dark and intimidating in the pan. Now, that's both a good thing and a bad thing. If you're someone who's not used to applying dark eyeshadows, then this is great, because you can't go wrong. You're not gonna put it on your eye and suddenly just get a big blotch of a dark patch. However, if you're someone who's, you know, seasoned in doing her makeup and you want to just get the payoff straight away, then this is definitely not the one for you. You can see in the demos that I was really struggling to like build up the pigment. It applied so much better with a finger. After application with a finger, it was actually just really easy to blend it out with a brush if you were going to use it as an all over shade. But if I was using it as a liner, I think I'd be a bit annoyed, because I would have to keep building it up, building it up, building up. And even though I am wearing in the outer corners, I have, you know, I kept building it for like 2 or 3 times, but this is really like big of an impact that I can get. And in terms of the depth I've added to that lash line, that's come from her eyeliner in the shade Forest Green. It's not from the eyeshadow palette. And of course, I will be comparing all of these eyeshadows to her existing eyeshadow palette, so just keep on watching. And then the next shade we have is Sahara, this beautiful khaki green, and this is definitely the standout matte shade in this eyeshadow palette. This is in the velvet formula rather than the seamless matte compared to the other 2 shades, and even though this shade is most beautiful in terms of color, it is also the trickiest to work with. Can you see like all of these little micro dents that I have in the pan? That is from me digging my brush, and I'm not even digging that hard. I'm just using a normal pressure that I would use with any eyeshadow palette, but for some reason with this shade, with this formula, when I'm using a brush, it just picks out the shade in clumps, and then I have to sort of prime the brush, work the pigment into the brush, and apply it to my eyes. I can just apply it to my eyes without priming the brush, but then it kind of applies in clumps, and then I get loads of fallout. Even though it does apply in clumps, once you blend it out, it actually works perfectly well. So I think that speaks to how good the formula is in a way, but at the same time, it's also kind of like, why is this happening? And same again with this color, you have to build it up. And I think with this color, I kind of like that. there's something really romantic about this soft wash of khaki green over the eyelids. At the beginning I was kind of like, this is so rubbish, why does it take so much effort to build up this color? But then when I looked in the mirror, when I saw this like beautiful subtle wash that you can see there is color there, but it's not so obviously in your face, I really fell in love with the shade. I will put up with the formula, and I do actually think, because it's such a unique shade and for a certain customer, you know, if you want to wear it every day, it's really nice to have it being a little bit more subtle, and it's very elegant. However, if you do want to show off more of that pigment, you can definitely apply it with a finger. That will definitely pack on the pigment much more, and then again blend it out with a brush. Works perfectly well that way. Interestingly, I have this really old palette from Colourpop. It's a collaboration with Kathleen Lights. And then there's this shade here called Jade, which is a pretty good dupe for the Lisa Eldridge khaki green. So we've got the Colourpop on top and the Lisa Eldridge on the bottom. And the Colourpop is actually a little bit more green, but obviously with Colourpop it is a cheaper brand. I can feel it when I touch the eyeshadow. It's a true matte formula. It's very powdery, whereas Lisa's matte formula is very creamy and they have more of that satin finish. And I did try and see if I could find a green in the Natasha Denona gold palette, the original gold palette, and no, there was no dupes. And the reason why I was trying to find a dupe for this khaki green is because I feel like a lot of people were really excited by this color. But yeah, it's actually quite a unique shade. I know though there are some new releases from Prada or Galan, or you know, some other luxury brands that I don't really review on my channel. They have sort of a similar story to Desert Gleam, but I'm sorry I can't compare those because I don't buy those brands. And next we have a Blaze. A Blaze is in the metallic formula, and this is such a pretty golden brown. It's a bronze gold that is as cool as it is warm, and I do think it is really truly a neutral sparkly shade. And even though it's not a unique color per se, because again it's just another nude, it has beautiful gold sparkles throughout. You can apply the shade with a fluffy brush for just a little like wash of sparkles, or you can again apply with a finger to really make it wet. And then we have Christina. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing the shades wrong. I watched her video a long time ago, and yeah, I'm sorry. Christina is in the luminous formula, and with the luminous formula she does pack a lot more shimmer particles, a little bit more like glitter, but you know, really small fine glitter, so it really is very shiny, very wet looking. And she described this as an enigmatic duo silver that shifts from warm to cool green silver, and this shade feels really creamy to the touch, but I don't really see the duochrome that much, to be honest with you. I don't know how you feel seeing it on screen. To me, I don't know, it just kind of looks like a dirty green silver. It's not like a 1 second it's this pure silver and 1 second it's green. I just think it's two colors mashed together. I don't see that duochrome shift. And this shade has kind of gold sparkles, blue sparkles, and kind of little tiny little silver sparkles, but really the gold sparkles and the blue sparkles are more obvious when I look at it. And then next we got Firefly, which is a metallic bright yellow gold. It is a kind of a greeny yellow gold. I think it's interesting that she described it as a yellow gold, but when I compare it to kind of other golds in my collection, it has a little bit of a green tinge to it. It's very subtle, but this is, again, even though I, you know, think, oh, it's just another gold shade, but actually it's quite unique in tone. It doesn't feel too dry, but it doesn't feel too creamy to the touch either. It applies very smoothly. I think, again, applies better with a finger if you want to pack a punch. And I just want to compare it with this gold from the gold palette Natasha Denona, and you can see the Natasha Denona here, right? It's actually quite a lot more orange. I would think this is more yellow than this, because to me that looks slightly more green. Do you know what I mean? Is it just me? Am I colorblind? And surprisingly, I didn't find anything that similar in my collection. All of the golds that I have were leaning more on this tone rather than this tone, and there were two sort of similar shades from Pat McGrath, but honestly I think this shade is actually very cool, very unique. to my collection anyway. Overall, this is kind of like a neutral slash warm eyeshadow palette, and basically half the shades are kind of like your neutral slash warm browns, and the other half is your neutral slash warm pops of color. And the two most unique shades in terms of color are definitely Sahara and Firefly, and I think it's worth purchasing at least like these two shades as singles. And to be honest, I do really like the other shades as well. And also I think this color is quite unique as well because it's not like a true silver, it's got that green tinge to it. And again, it's not something I've seen from other brands, it's not something else I have in my eyeshadow collection. So yeah, the pops of color definitely really gorgeous, really beautiful. But then again, with the matte formula, it is sort of hit and miss. So whether you want to buy it, just think about it overall. But obviously you could always consider picking up the singles. So let's start comparing the eyeshadow palettes. I've got Fawn versus Desert Gleam, and honestly I think Fawn is actually the most similar in terms of color story because all of these browns. However, these browns are completely different in tone. Fawn is much cooler. Also, I feel like I'm kind of looking like a 1930s actress with this combo of makeup look. What do you think? And of course then we have Sorcery, because Sorcery has those beautiful pops of color as well. And even though you think that they sort of look similar in the pan, especially that silver shade, when you swatch it, they're actually completely different. And I actually think the two eyeshadow palettes complement each other very well. And then we also have Cinnabar because of all of those nudes, but the Cinnabar nudes are definitely so much warmer and the browns are actually quite different. Even though they look similar in the pans, they have completely different undertones. And you can see when you compare Desert Gleam to Cinnabar, Desert Gleam suddenly looks a lot more neutral. And if you're someone who, you know, prefers a cool brown or a warm brown, then just remember coolest to warmest. It goes from Fawn, Desert Gleam, then Cinnabar. So if that helps at all in your purchasing decision.
Betty versus Desert Gleam. I just swatched the two nudie sparkly brown shades next to each other, and the Betty shade was definitely a lot more cold and a lot warmer. Then we've got Myth, which is discontinued, and the brown was just much darker in Myth compared to Desert Gleam. Next up we've got Muse and then Vega. Both of those two palettes are quite different, nothing really that similar.
And by the way, my name is Aijing, that's pronounced like Beijing with an I. I make a lot of thorough reviews and comparison videos on Lisa Eldridge. I also love Asian beauty, and if you're finding this video helpful, make sure you give it a like and click the subscribe button. Let me know what you think about the new collection. I've also put affiliate links of all of the products I am wearing on my face, and of course all of the Lisa Eldridge products that I've talked about in this video. So if you feel like supporting my channel and feel like making a purchase, then it'd be great if you want to use my links, but obviously don't feel pressured to do so. I did buy all of these products with my own money. I don't get PR from Lisa. So now let's move on to the lipsticks. Toasted is a true milky tea neutral beige, and even though it's described as neutral on the website, on my skin tone it looks quite cool. It looks a little bit grey, not like on the vampire deadly level, but I do feel like it's sort of on the edge of that. The best way I can describe it, probably a more flattering way of describing it, is a 90s supermodel look. And then next we have Ray, which is a muted mauvey chocolate, and that is the perfect description for this color because it is a really beautiful rich brown, but it does just have a hint of purple to it, and I really like the shade. So it does lean a little bit cool, but because of that richness to it, I feel like it's still kind of flattering on my skin. Next we have Lili, which is a dirty spicy chili red, and that is what I'm wearing on my lips today, and I think this is probably my favorite shade out of the three new releases. Just as Lisa described, even though this is kind of a statement color, I think you can wear it without feeling like you're wearing a red lipstick, and that's what I love about it. And you will see the comparisons with the shades. When I first wore this, I thought it looked quite similar to Dragon, but actually Dragon is a lot brighter, so this shade is even more wearable as a red, and I just love it. And I think for my Asian or skin tone, olive, a little bit kind of like yellow kind of skin tone, this is just perfect. It is so flattering. So if you're similar in terms of skin tone to me, then I recommend Lili wholeheartedly. I have reviewed this formula before. I have reviewed her Rouge Experience lipsticks before, and honestly, when I first reviewed them, I wasn't that impressed. I was kind of like, okay, fine, it's just a lipstick. But actually, as I wore them more and more, I have fell in love with the formula more because it wears really well. It's very long lasting, even though it's a satin formula. You know, it's not her super saturated velvet shades. So I think the longevity of these lipsticks are absolutely amazing, and they do pack really even pigment as well. They are full of pigment. Lisa's never shy about her pigment in her lipsticks. They apply evenly, so I think like the whole application, you know, the lasting power is absolutely amazing with these lipsticks. So I have actually enjoyed this formula so much more as I've gotten more wear out of them. However, the downside is they are drying. I definitely do feel them drying my lips, and the very next day after I've worn this lipstick all day, my lips do feel dry. So that is that downside with this formula, but otherwise I think it is stunning, it is beautiful. So let's roll on the comparison montage of these lipsticks, and if I have missed anything, then please do let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to post these things on Instagram and my community YouTube page as well. And I just want to say it's been a long time since I've done a long form chatty video, and it's just because life is busy. I feel like I keep saying I'm a doctor, and I don't mean that, oh, I'm a doctor, but it's just that's why I don't make videos regularly. So I hope you guys understand, and then thank you so much for still sticking with me even though I am the worst uploader of videos on YouTube.
And the first shade comparing with Lili is Spirited Away. I'm not sure why I decided to go with this comparison actually, because you can clearly see that Spirited Away is a muted rosewood shade. Made me appreciate how nice Spirited Away is though. Next up, we have Palazzo versus Lili, and Palazzo is definitely a truer red. It's got less of that dirtiness to it. I tried to compare Duchess to Lili, but actually Duchess is just completely different, so I abandoned that. And then we have Sorcery swatched on the back of my hand. Again, too different, so I didn't bother putting it on my lips. Next up is Enchantment, because Enchantment is kind of a really wearable red as well, but it's in the pink leaning. Dragon compared Lili, you can see Dragon actually is so much brighter. It does have more of that orange as well, whereas I feel like Lili is a truer chili red. I almost feel like Lili is Dragon's more wearable sister. Next up, we have Red Curve, and now I think Red Curve is the even more wearable sister of Lili because it's just got less pigment, but I think the tone of these two colors are actually very, very similar. Obviously, we can't forget about Ribbon, and you can see Ribbon here is just a much brighter, bluer based red. And on the back of my hand, it is the third shade that I've swatched, and it looks almost pink compared to all of the other reds. True testament to the different undertones of the reds. Then I compared Toasted and Ray next to each other on my lips as well as on the back of my hand, so you can appreciate the difference in tone and depth of the two colours. First up, we got Meet Me in Berlin, and you can see Meet Me in Berlin is just a little bit darker and warmer compared to Toasted. Then we have Night Thoughts, which is honestly too much of a berry to be comparable. Affair is the third shade that I compared though, and I thought this was reasonably similar in terms of tone, but Affair is definitely deeper. I think it has more of a pink tinge. Next up, we've got Muse, and as you can see, Muse definitely leans so much more pink as well. I did swatch Velvet Decade on the back of my hand as well, and that's the second bottom colour. Then this is Metropolis compared. Moving on to the other Rouge Experience lipsticks. First up is Ashes of Roses, which is definitely more of a rosy tone, hence the name. Comparing Toasted to Romy, Romy is so much more pink. It's also quite cool toned, but definitely more pink. So trying to decide between these two shades, they are both for cool tone lovers, just whether you prefer more of a pink or a nude. I swatched Bohemian Cherry next on the back of my hand. It's really more for a comparison with Rain and Toasted. Then we've got Lisa next. It's just so much more pink. I wiped up Bohemian Cherry and put Simone second colour from the bottom. Simone and Toasted look very, very similar. But Toasted is definitely more cool and grey. I personally think Simone is a bit more flattering on my skin tone. So if we're shade twins, then I think you probably prefer Simone over Toasted like me. Meet Me in Berlin looks very similar to Ray in the bullet, but Meet Me in Berlin is more brown, whereas Ray is more purple. Then we've got Velvet Decade, which is discontinued, and again, I feel like the two looks quite similar, but Decade is darker and maybe a bit more purple. We have Sorcery, and Sorcery, I don't know, the two are sort of same but different. There's something about it. I don't know, can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's just a finish. What do you guys think? Then we've got Velvet Affair compared to Ray, which you can see is definitely lighter and more of a brown compared to Ray. Then we have Ray's little sister, Metropolis, in the Balm and Brace formula, and yeah, I think they are basically the same colour.
So I hope you enjoyed all of those comparisons, and I want to emphasize that although some shades are similar and it kind of maybe looks like dupes of each other on the lips, there are still subtle differences in pigment, and obviously on one person one shade is going to look different on the other person, and these shades are just how they look on me. And I'm sure Lisa has thought about, you know, which undertones in which lipstick, but obviously if you have a similar complexion to me, then I hope you'll find it helpful, so that it helps you from not buying something that is, you know, too similar to one another. Also, I hope it helps in finding your ideal shade, taking into the undertones and the nuances of each shade into consideration. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and if you do follow me on Instagram, you know that I've been posting about my exam, which I did yesterday. So if I pass this one, I've got another one in November, and then there's no more exams, so hopefully my upload schedule will be a little bit more consistent then as well. But in the meantime, I hope to see you soon. Feel free to look at some of the other Lisa Eldridge videos or some K-beauty, Asian beauty videos. I definitely have more of that coming, because my god, I am addicted to yes style, and yes, I am rambling, but I just haven't talked to you in such a long time, and I really missed you. Okay, all right, I am gonna go now though. Bye.